justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, if you will please call the roll and read the prepared statement.
April 10, 2018. Please be advised, this meeting is being taped, audio and video broadcast. The meeting will also be closed captioned. It's important that everyone speak clearly into the microphones and only one person speak at a time. Assisted listening devices are available. Mr. Burnett.
Present.
Mr. Corsello.
Here.
Mr. Sacchinelli.
Here.
Ms. Smith. Mr. Stern.
Here.
Ms. Melendez.
Here.
Mr. Ioannidis.
Here.
Ms. Bowman. Mr. Sims. Mr. Kides.
Present.
Ms. Siegelbaum. Here. Mr. Hempstead.
Here.
Mr. Serenides.
Here.
Mr. Igneri. Mr. Livingston.
Here.
Present.
11 present. We have a quorum. Next item on the agenda, acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of March 27th, 2018. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Livingston moves. Any discussion? Omissions? Additions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Abstain.
I'm sorry?
Abstention.
Oh, next, Mr. Sacchinelli abstained. Next item on the agenda is public participation.
There are no names signed up.
No one has signed up to address the council, so we will close participation. Under the mayor's section, we have no resignations or appointments this evening. Mayor's remarks very brief tonight. A reminder that Saturday, April 21st, we will be celebrating the third annual Clean City Initiative and Earth Day. Lucia and I will be joined by city staff as well as our sponsors, Keep America Beautiful, Lowe's, and the Norwalk Hour. Many neighborhood groups and teams of volunteers join us each year, and we go throughout the town and pick different spots and help clean up some of the debris that has occurred over the winter. So, we're hoping that we get as many teams as we possibly can to come out and join us. Meeting at Lowe's at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, the 21st. It's a great feeling when we can remove dozens and dozens of garbage bags of trash that has been strewn about the community. It's a good opportunity also to remind people that we want to keep Norwalk beautiful, and all too often we see paper flying around and people discarding things outside of their vehicles and so forth. We all really ought to think more along the lines of keeping our community beautiful year-round, and to think twice before throwing something out or make sure we dispose of trash appropriately. So that's on April 21st. The Human Services Council invites us to join them on April 17th as they celebrate April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. We will be gathering on the front lawn in front of the pinwheels that are now out there. If you've noticed them out there, it's a reminder about the sad situation of child abuse. There are too many young people that are abused, and this is going to bring awareness to this issue, and hopefully we'll get a lot of people out there. We will have more comments on the upcoming budget that we're going to be voting on after the council president speaks. So now, Mr. Kides.
Just a reminder, anyone in the audience, as long as there's too many, but if you hear your item read on the consent calendar, I mean, it has been approved, and you are free to leave. And tonight, Ms. Melendez will be reading the...
Mrs.
Every time.
Is there something you're keeping?
No, you would all be invited, trust me. Okay, thank you, Council President Kides. We'll start under Public Works. 7A1, rescind item number 7C1 on the Common Council agenda on September 12th, 2017, which read as follows: authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute a supplemental agreement between the City of Norwalk and AECOM, formerly URS Corporation, for extra professional engineering design services required during construction for the rehabilitation of the Perry Avenue Bridge over the Norwalk River Project, Connecticut DOT project number 102-319, for an amount not to exceed $78,500. The account numbers are noted. The new action authorization request included the federal project number to help differentiate the project. 7A, 2A, authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute a third supplemental agreement between the City of Norwalk and AECOM, formerly URS Corporation, for extra professional engineering design services required during construction for the rehabilitation of the Perry Avenue Bridge over the Norwalk River Project, Connecticut DOT project number 102-319, federal project number 6102-009, for an amount not to exceed $74,350. The account numbers are noted. 2B, authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute a first supplemental agreement between the City of Norwalk and AECOM, formerly URS Corporation, for extra professional engineering, construction, inspection services required during construction for the rehabilitation of the Perry Avenue Bridge over the Norwalk River Project, Connecticut DOT project number 102-319, federal project number 6102-011, for an amount not to exceed $78,350. The account numbers are also noted. Authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents necessary to complete the closing on the granting of easements for the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation to be used by the city for multi-purpose trails along Route 7 as part of the Norwalk River Valley Trail System. 7B1A, Land Use and Building Management Committee, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a contract with Young Developers LLC for the roof replacement project at the Fire Support Services Facility for a total not to exceed $583,709. The account numbers noted. 7B1B, authorize the fire chief to issue change order on contract for a total not to exceed $58,371. 7B2, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a sublease agreement among the City of Norwalk Community Development Institute, Head Start, Inc., and Odyssey Learning, Inc. for the use of the Nathaniel Ely Center for the operation of a 2018 summer child care programming for Head Start children from July 5th, 2018 to August 3rd, 2018. 7B3, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a sublease agreement among the City of Norwalk Community Development Institute, Head Start, Inc., and Stepping Stones Museum for Children, Inc. for the use of the Benjamin Franklin Center for the operation of a 2018 summer child care programming for Head Start children from July 5th, 2018 to August 3rd, 2018. 7B4, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a second amendment to the management agreement between the City of Norwalk and Odyssey Learning, Inc. for the operation of the Daniel Ely Center to extend the term of the agreement from July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2020. 7B5, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a second agreement. Second amendment to the management agreement between the City of Norwalk and Growing Seeds Child Development Center, Inc., CDC LLC, for the operation of the Benjamin Franklin Center to extend the term of the agreement from July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2020. 7B6A, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Tri-State LED, Inc. for the supply of light fixtures for the police headquarters energy efficient lighting retrofit program for a total not to exceed $32,554.86. Funds are available from the account number noted. 7B6B, authorize the Office of Building Management to issue change orders on the contract for a total not to exceed $3,255.40. 7B7A, authorize the purchase agent to issue a purchase order to AM Electric Company LLC for the installation of light fixtures for the police headquarters energy efficient lighting retrofit project for a total not to exceed $20,560.86. Funds are available from the account number noted. 7B, authorize the Office of Building Management to issue change orders on the contract for a total not to exceed $2,056. 7B8, approve New England Energy Controlled Inc. and authorize service representative for KMC Building Energy Management System as a sole source vendor to service KMC equipment. This approval shall expire on July 1st, 2021. 7B9, approve Automated Building Systems, Inc. and authorize service representative Allerton Control Systems as sole source vendor to service Allerton equipment. This approval shall expire on July 1st, 2021. 7B10A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a contract with GeoCorp Contracting, Inc. for ADA improvements at the Newark Historical Society Museum in the amount not to exceed $130,685. Accounts numbers noted. 7B10B, authorize the Historical Commission to execute change orders on the contract for a total not to exceed $13,000. And just for council members' knowledge, that the numbers may be different. The numbers I read are different from the numbers on your sheet, because that was the numbers that Chairman Livingston
There was an
corrected.
oversight in the translation of the numbers from the committee meeting to the agenda.
Yep. And that is your consent calendar.
All right, thank you, Ms. Melendez. If there are no objections, all in favor of approving the consent calendar as read, please raise your hand and signify yes. Looks to be unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back to you.
Thank you. Mr. Kites, Planning Committee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think we started the conversation about the capital budget early, just to, get a clear idea of what the priorities are and how to best improve services to residents. And I'll just point out some of the highlights that we've been discussing. First, to point out, under DPW, we are between paving and sidewalks, we're allocating over $6 million to that. So I think we got a lot of work done to our streets and sidewalks. Also, this is one of the pet projects of our DPW director, and that's we're expanding bulky waste pickup to other areas of Norwalk. I believe all of Norwalk, with the purchase of a new garbage truck. So I think residents really took advantage of that, and I'm glad to see that in this year's budget. And next we have the Board of Education. On top of the $57.5 million that'll be going to school improvements and construction throughout the city, we also fully funded the Board of Ed request for internet access and Chromebooks to underprivileged children. This is part of this was sponsored by Sprint for the internet access, and our part was Chromebooks. So I was very happy that we were able to make that happen. And we're also making major investments, of course, into our parks, but one thing to point out is the West Rock Soccer Complex. We have allocated funding for that, so hopefully that plan comes back, and that eventually hopefully will be funded and completed down the road. And like I said, I want to thank the mayor and the council and the planning committee for all their hard work. I really think we have a solid capital budget. So I'd like to move that.
Item's been moved. Further discussion. Mr. Hempstead.
I had a question that was at the other night at the planning committee. Can somebody explain to me why the choice in funding for Columbus School changed from $400,000 and for Jefferson School from $400,000 to fully funded for this school year coming up versus the following year as originally planned?
I think the answer is that it's not being funded, it's being appropriated for. The 5-year capital plan that was presented last year, this year being the first year of that plan, showed 2 schools funded in the first year and 2 schools funded in the second year. Last year, we funded we appropriated the entire amount for the first 2 schools, Ely and Ponus. And so we just kept with that 5-year plan. It's what we It's what we presented to our rating agencies. It was part and parcel of the entire 5-year investment, I think $207 million over 5 years. And I chose to recommend that we keep it as we presented it last year, where we're doing the full appropriations for the first 2 schools in the first year, this year, and the second 2 schools in the second year, which is the budget before you. Splitting the funding of it is entirely different than the appropriation step. Typically, when I do my forecast for funding, because I have to do a debt service associated with the money we borrow and when we borrow it, I have to do a debt service forecast, is for large projects we'll typically estimate 10% of the project in the first year, 60% in the second year, and then the remaining 30% in the third year. But then when we actually go to issue the debt, we have conversations with all of the project managers that have appropriations, and we find out exactly what they're prepared to spend in the upcoming year. And that's how we determine how much we borrow in that year. So the funding is just representative of the plan that we embarked in last year. I would not have probably handled it the same way if the Board of Ed had said, hey, this project is going to cost a lot less or a lot more. But if you look at their request, the sum of the first 2 years where they put the money equaled exactly what they presented last year, and it equaled exactly what I put in my recommendation for this year. So that's the reason for the money being appropriated in this upcoming year that's before you tonight.
And as a follow-up, once the money is appropriated this evening, is that locked and loaded and given basically to the, now I know we're not bonded for it, but does that dollar amount become locked and loaded to the Board of Education as they can spend within that time, that money frame, what they want? And it's basically out of any other body's hands. Is that correct or not correct?
No, not for capital. For capital, the money has to be used for the money we borrowed it for, that this body appropriates the money for. And frankly, that's another advantage of having the entire appropriation in a single year, because if it was split up between 3 years, by the time you're doing the third appropriation, you may wonder to yourself, is this the same amount of money that we said that we were going to do 3 years ago? Well, this way, you're appropriating the entire amount, and if they have overruns, they have to come back before you to get a supplemental appropriation to increase the amount of money they spend to build the school.
So would it be a fair assumption then, in reverse, this becomes a controlling point if their budgets exceed their estimates at this particular time? They really then have to pare down to this particular money unless they go through the entire process of asking for extra funds.
Yes, I mean, even if they got the appropriation in 3 pieces, they're still controlled by how much you authorize or how much you appropriate. But I do think it makes it easier to see, are we keeping on track with this incredible investment in our schools that we laid out last year? And that's why I recommended it that way. I think it's easier to see how we're tracking on the schools, and it'll be less easy to get lost in the weeds when you have 3 separate appropriations out there for this a single school. Last year we said we knew how much it was going to cost. This year when they presented it, the sum of the 2 years they were splitting it between had not changed, and so that's why you'll see the whole amount this year.
I just want to compliment the Chairman Kites and the Mayor actually for putting together a good balance and making some changes. Chairman Kites, we did at the Planning Committee with good suggestions about moving some monies around, trying to balance it out a little bit more, and especially the technology part along with some of the DPW stuff. I think it is a well-balanced capital budget.
Ms. Bowman?
Thank you. Yeah, and I did not abstain from this for concerns over the Columbus School and the Jefferson School appropriations, especially since, so I do sit on the South Norwalk School subcommittee, and at the last meeting, we found out that basically they will not even start at least for another 2 years because of all of the issues going there, if it even starts, which means that any changes to Columbus School is really not even in the 5-year plan. So I don't really understand why we are appropriating this. I understand that it's not, if it's not spent, it's not spent, but we also didn't account for the fact that, from what I'm hearing from the planners, is that PONUS is over budget. So if PONUS is over budget already, and we have not added to that budget, I mean, like, are we really, did we ever stop and reassess and talk to the designers or Alan Lowe to see exactly where the schools are that in terms of their budget of what we appropriated last year? So I know they were talking about, as far as the South Norwalk School, having to eliminate air conditioner with the budget they're in, because you got to buy property, you got to widen roads, you got to add stoplights, you got to see, once you get outside of the school, outside of the lines, you got to talk about what type of infrastructure you're going to need to change. So we don't even really know yet what those two schools are really going to cost, and then we're appropriating this. The Jefferson School may be still in the 5-year plan, but the Columbus School is not, unless you were talking about something like, since we're into taking open space, putting portables where Columbus is and starting on that, renovating that building now. I mean, we should really be thinking about what we're doing. We're going ahead, forging ahead with this plan. But the South Norwalk School, you got 2 properties you need to acquire. One is willing to sell, one is not, so that will be going to court. You got open space that there is no land swap for, so that will likely be going to court. You got to widen roads. That traffic study has not even been done yet. To see, you got to knock down the grassroots building, current building where it is, and put something there or whatever. I mean, promises were made to those folks. So, I mean, understanding where we want to understand where this whole, we're appropriating money, we don't even really understand where that project is, but we have a clearer understanding of where the PONUS project is that includes the Jefferson School, and we know that that's already over budget. So, what you're putting money for, they were asking for $400,000 probably to do preliminary things because they don't know yet what they're exactly going to need. Originally, I believe both school budgets were closer to 80 million, and we pared it down to 80 million between two. So, we really need to understand what things are going to cost, and we're allotting this money. I don't know if we're allotting this money in case we need another 20 million for those schools next year. It doesn't seem like we spent the money, or people will forget. So anyway, I abstain from this. I'm going to abstain from this again because I don't really understand that logic. We're putting the cart before the horse. Those first 2 schools are going to need more money. If we're already promising this 20 million, we're not stopping to think outside of the box. We can put portables on the field where Columbus is and start renovating that building, especially with the issues we know we're already going to have at where the other South Norwalk School is. But I think it's putting the cart before the horse. I won't keep you for too long. I just wanted to say that.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And abstentions. Mr. Sims is opposed, Ms. Bowman abstains. Motion carries. Mr. Cuddies.
Yes, Mayor, I would like to call a vote to suspend the rules for the following item as read. Whereas Section 1-289 of the Norwalk Charter requires that a 2/3 affirmative vote of the entire membership of the council is necessary to amend maximum limit on locally funded expenditures previously established on February 27, 2018. Now therefore be resolved by the Common Council of the City of Norwalk that the amended maximum limit on the total appropriations for the City of Norwalk for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2018 shall be no more than $337,118,940. This appropriation cap represents total expenditures of $354,088,655, less estimated intergovernmental grants of $16,969,715. Be it further resolved that the result of this vote and resolution will be forwarded by the clerk of the City of Norwalk to the Board of Estimate and Taxation.
Mr. Kites has read the resolution, and I believe he has moved it.
And yes,
And discussion. Mr. Kites.
Suspension of the
Yeah,
yeah, we have to vote on this.
Yes, suspension of the rules, you're right. So, motion to suspend the rules to add the item as listed by Mr. Kites. Mr. Burnett, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Kites.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a quick moment, as a parent, as a councilperson, I just wanted to offer my comments. I'm taking comfort in knowing that the Norwalk Board of Education has received the largest budget increase last year, and it looks to be the same case for this year. But there's no doubting that we understand that the Board of Ed was underfunded in decades past, and now we're coming back into our schools in a major way. And with the city's inability to give the Board of Ed less than we've done the year before, that level of funding will continue. And I'm proud to say that, and like I said, as a parent, I take comfort in that. And there's no doubt that the Board of Ed's strategic operating plan will continue to improve our schools. They had done a fantastic job with putting the details of their plan together. But that being said, I do feel to fully implement that plan, the cost of that must be broken up over a few years in the same way the goals of the previous plan were achieved. And then personally, and this is my personal opinion, I don't agree with the Board of Ed cutting staff to further implement their new plan unless the board is certain that those positions are no longer needed. We, including the Board of Ed, have worked far too hard over the years to see progress taken away for goals that will never be achieved without the need for those cuts. And just lastly, the city has shown its commitment. We're here again to approve another $950,000 to one of the largest budgets in the state. So I fully support this, and I encourage others to do the same.
This is a point of order. You want to move that item? We read to go off the agenda.
I'd like to move that item.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Hempstead.
Yeah, I have, just want to make sure, Mr. Barron, all right? Make sure, so I understand this completely, and the rest of the people that are ever going to watch this, they understand this, all right? Because if you read the papers, you thought we were cutting their funding for the previous year. So is the bottom line now to the Board of Ed for this year's expenditures, which then becomes the baseline for next year's expenditures under statute, $190,494,000.
That's correct.
So that will be where they start next year.
Well,
Could it be less? The answer is
the
no.
following year, I think, is probably more appropriate. The next year begins July 1st, and the $190 million budget is next year's budget. Their current year budget is $184 million, so.
Okay. Their next budget request come next February.
Right. That'll be the minimum budget requirement because, as the chairman previously stated, we're not allowed to give less than we did in the prior years. That's the way it used to be for all communities, but recently, with declines in student population, they relieved that, and declines in the amount of ECS funding. They made exceptions for everybody but alliance districts to that rule, but we happen to be an alliance district, so we're still bound by not providing less funding than we did in the previous year.
The $190 million plus does not include the 1.2 STEM money?
It does not include that money.
All right. And does not include any money that they are transferring internally?
It does not include the internal funding, and I sent an example out for everybody. I don't know if they saw it, but the reason why is because that money that's a surplus in the insurance fund had already been appropriated for. It just happens to be unspent, previously appropriated money. if you have, if you anticipate spending $25 million in your insurance fund, in your general fund, you would budget $25 million. It becomes an expenditure in your general fund, goes over, it's a revenue in your insurance fund. You spend $25 million, you have zero at the end of the day. Well, we happen to know that there's going to be a surplus in that insurance fund. So what it allows the Board of Ed to do is say, I expect $25 million worth of expenditures in that insurance fund, but maybe I only budget $22 million in my general fund. I put in $22 million as a revenue in the insurance fund. I have $25 million worth of expenses. It reduces that fund balance or net assets for the insurance fund by $3 million because you only had $22 million worth of revenue but $25 million worth of expense. So what happens in this insurance fund is I was planning on spending $25 million, but now that insurance line item is only $22 million. I could spend that $3 million that I've shorted that insurance appropriation anywhere else I want. And that's what the Board of Ed will do, is it will not increase that $190 million appropriation because they're going to accomplish using that surplus in the insurance fund by just reducing the amount they contribute to it and using that amount that they reduced in other accounts. So their use of the anticipated $1.1 million in the insurance fund will not increase their appropriation that we have to worry about year-over-year funding of 194 something.
Does the passage tonight of this budget, though, make certain that that money is transferred? I'm talking about the money from internally from their health program.
Well, that was the agreement that the mayor and chairman had secured with the Board of Education. At one point, they said, whatever surplus we have in our insurance fund, we'd like to use it over each of the next 2 years. They used some of it this year. They said they were going to draw it down over 3 years, this year, and then what it's ever left over the next 2 years. They agreed to exhaust it, except for a small required amount for their self-funded dental and vision insurance. I think it's $200,000. But they agreed to use all that money.
But there's nothing.
Yeah, the Board of Estimate and Taxation asked me this.
Is there anything binding that commits them to do that? I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
Their word.
The word.
Yeah.
It's okay. Just as long as I'm clear with
the Board of Estimate and Taxation asked me the same question. They said if they asked for 9.9,
right.
and we were,
okay. Good. I'm good. The other question I have about if the state cuts its ECS funding as it goes through its budgetary process for this year, does that automatically turn into a cut for the Board of Education's budget, or does that become something the city has to make up?
Well, the ECS funding comes to us in two pieces. It's our base that the city gets, $10,095,000, and then everything above that goes to the Board of Education. The Board of Education is anticipated to receive an increase next year over this year in that extra amount, the amount over the $10,095,000. If there's a cut, it'll first, as it's been handled in the past, it'll first come from the amount that's over the 10,095 base. So that'll represent a reduction in the direct revenue they get. The alliance funding goes directly to the Board of Education. But it does not affect the appropriation that you're approving tonight. If you approve $190,494,000, that is what they get, and they can spend up to that amount. So if there's a cut to ECS, it will be to the revenue that they get, that they probably have anticipated for other expenditures in their other funds. They have a general fund, a grant fund, a food services fund.
So is the rest of the city responsible if there is a cut or not? Or is it within the Board of Ed's budget, they got to figure out what to do if the ECS funding was cut? That's all, it's simple, one or the other.
Only to the extent that you choose to be. You can appropriate, they could come and say, they've wiped out all alliance funding, we were anticipating over $2 million, here are the things that I can't do, and they ask for a special appropriation. Okay. But it will be up to you. They can't automatically get it. It'll be brought before you.
Okay, that's just what I wanted to get clarity on.
Right.
Let me answer my question. I'm going to support this tonight, which I know is already down as a no vote. But my explanation is I am struggling with this because we already have a 3.7 potential tax increase coming out there. And I know this is not going to add to it, but I worry about the following fiscal year after the 18-19 budget more than anything. And it's truly tearing at me because I know they've made some strides this year, and I think everybody's looking for that proof in the pudding. Can you do it year 2, year 3? Now it's coming up with the kind of funds that you're being expended to. So it's a little bit of a leap of faith for me, especially somebody who tends to be a little bit more fiscally prudent with the Board of Education over the years. But I just want to make sure, because there were some comments after a couple of meetings ago where some of us were being accused of saying that parents and school systems weren't being supportive and going after state funding, our ECS money upstate. And I wanted to correct that wasn't my statement, wasn't my intent. Intent is we need to hold accountable the people in state positions who can bring money to this, to make them act in making sure no kids get the proper education. Because the issue is, from a percentage point, what comes to this system, for a system that has over 54% subsidized lunches, it's squat. It is squat. And that's the problem why we're going through year after year of this discussion, back and forth. We hate you, you hate kids, all that kind of stuff, and it gets to be kind of lame after a while. Mm-hmm. And add to the lameness, the sign that you came off the elevator, which is not factual, I find it inflammatory. I find it inappropriate for educators who want to try and get the best education together and work with the other half of the city that has to come up with appropriation to put a sign up there that indicates we're so low on per pupil spending to other counties. That sign is inaccurate. I think we're higher than Stanford, correctly?
Lower than Stanford.
It's the only one. It's still not higher than us in this thing. So it's time they take down the lies, the sign, get with the program. We're all one city. We didn't cut their budget. We lessened the amount they requested on, as Mr. Keides pointed out, the decisions to cut the personnel, and it was in place of them also hiring other personnel for what they felt are the priorities within the system. We didn't present a budget that says you need to cut these people because we're not funding the existing conditions. But that picture was painted out there at where, and I'm one of the minority. This is the rest majority, but I'm standing tall with my other fellow council people, the fact that we were painted improperly, and I think the reality really needs to get out there to the people that afford that was fully funded for all the present positions that they had along with their increases in their payroll system. All right, this is allowing them to do some additional programs. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Further discussion? Ms. Bowman.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate that point. I did see some posts from some aides whose positions are going to be cut, and then I know that they did attend one of the meetings. If the Board of Education wanted to fund those positions, they are more than capable of doing it with the funding that we already provided. And then this additional funding we will be providing. From what I understand, this additional funding may not go towards those positions, but that's because that is a choice and a restructuring. So my hope is that if they do not need the kindergarten aides or guidance counselors, and the extended kindergarten day or year, whatever they're doing, and in the high school, if there are positions that people can be reabsorbed into, I hope that they'll be informed of that. But the funding is more than there for them to keep those individuals if they wanted to, and that is not on the council.
Further discussion?
Just to piggyback on what Mr. Winstead says, and I agree with regard to the publication of that sign which indicates that Norwalk, in comparison to surrounding towns, spends less money per pupil, that's misleading because our median income is substantially less than the surrounding towns. But just as an example, we spend $18 less per pupil than the town of Fairfield, and their median income is $41,000 higher than us.
Wow.
And that's, so to say that this city doesn't support its education system or recognize it's important is not true. We go out of our way to do everything we can and then some to fund the Board of Ed. That's what we're doing here tonight.
Mr. Burnett?
Yes, well, Mr. Barron is at the podium. Maybe he can provide some input as it relates to this increase in the cap, which will come directly out of the fund balance, the impact to that percentage.
Great.
And because I think it's important to understand that we're nibbling away at it, and as we look to the future, there could be consequences to following this continuous path.
We discussed this in the BET meeting as well. It was widely publicized that we closed last fiscal year at a 13.6%, our unassigned fund balance as a percentage of our GAAP revenues. With this proposal that's in front of you, pulling down $2,950,000 from fund balance to support next year's budget, and what's previously been committed to, if not, it hasn't come before you yet, is the $1.2 million funding of the third year of the Special Education Redevelopment Fund. With those two items and the increased budget, the forecast is that the end of next year will be at 11.9%. So from 13.6 down to 11.9%. I was asked if I was concerned with going below 12%, and my answer was that I think we have a great story to tell. I think we have a great story to tell about our support of education in our capital budget, support of education in our operating budget. But we also have to demonstrate the legislative will to restore that fund balance over time. Our financial advisor has provided us with 3 ratings since the first of the year that the language in these ratings seem to indicate that rating agencies are expecting higher fund balances in the state of Connecticut for a variety of reasons. I think I may have shared that with you all. As soon as this is approved, and then the first weekend of May when the Board of Estimate and Taxation approves the budget, it then becomes my job to sell the reasons for the investment and our plans to restore our fund balance and demonstrate how our history has shown that we can grow the fund balance over time. But the shorter answer was the impact of everything that's been discussed does bring that forecasted fund balance down to 11.9%.
Before we vote on the item, first of all, I'd like to thank Bob for being a very responsible protector, I guess, of the city funds. He does his homework. He gets us information, and he's usually spot on. I just want to say thank you to Bob. You're a true professional, somebody who's worked very, very hard. I've seen you in action. I meet with you virtually every day, and I have total confidence in how you handle the job of finance director. It would not be as it could be very easy to just say, let's draw down the fund balance to a significant point where we find ourselves coming to that cliff in the end where we're going to be finding ourselves in trouble. I also want to say thank you to all the people on the council, to the BET. This was a very challenging budget year, and some of the moments were not as pretty as they could have been, and I would hope that that does not continue. We're all working towards the same goal. We're working towards making Norwalk the best it can possibly be. We're working towards supporting our Board of Education, giving our children the world-class education that we know they deserve. But we have challenges a lot of other communities don't. We also have a lot of people who are struggling to pay their taxes. So we have to have a good balance. And I think that after a lot of many hours of discussion, hard work, crunching some numbers, that I believe we've come up with a balance that serves both purposes. It serves the Board of Education, giving them the money that they need. It also helps to keep taxes as low as we possibly can. During the past 4 years, the past 4 budgets, this council, some of you have been here the entire time, some of you have not. But during the past 4 years, we have given the Board of Education, or the Norwalk Public Schools, operating budget increases of $22 million. Now, I don't think that suggests that we don't support education. I think that shows that we do everything we can to give the children the education that they're entitled to. So, again, we're going to be putting together a committee. I'll be chairing the committee with looking towards how we can craft a budget that will, again, give the Board of Education what they need while keeping taxes as low as we possibly can. I agree with Mr. Corsello. The per-student expenditure is not a good measure of how we fund the Board of Education. There are so many other variables that have to be factored into that. I just can't say enough of how much hard work went into this. And again, thank you to the council people who came to the meetings to kind of work through with the Board of Estimate and with Norwalk Public Schools. We had council leadership involved. And it was a struggle, but I think we've gotten it done. And I hope that we can move forward from this point on. And again, some of the times when things weren't so pretty, we need to put those behind us and move forward. So, seeing no further discussion, I think we need a 2/3 majority, so I would ask a roll call vote.
13 people.
Well, we need 10 people to vote.
Mr. Burnett?
Yes.
Yes.
In favor.
Mr. Corsello?
Yes.
Mr. Sacchinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Stern?
Yes.
Ms. Melendez?
Yes.
Mr. Ioannidis?
Yes.
Ms. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Abstain.
Sorry?
I'm going to abstain.
All right. Please use your microphone. Thank you. Mr. Kides?
Yes.
Ms. Siegelbaum?
Yes.
Mr. Hempstead?
Yes.
Mr. Ioannidis?
Yes.
Mr. Livingston?
Yes.
You have 12.
We have 12 votes in favor, 1 abstention. Again, thank you to the Common Council for your consideration, and I'm sure that the young people of Norwalk thank you as well.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Hempstead, of course. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.